Is now with us. Mr. Bhat, hi, thank you very much for joining in.
Pleasure.
Are the markets on tenterhooks right now about what's happening with Trump's tweets and maybe what's happening with the Korean Peninsula?
Well, I think daily there is some new development there. So I think that is what, I mean, yesterday things looked a bit different. Today things are looking a bit duller. But I think the end game is certainly not exactly in sight. I think mutual destruction is not a solution. So there will be some talk sometime, but as a run up to the talk, I think there will be lot more tension building up. So I think there would be quite a lot of uncertainty being factored into markets as we go along.
Okay, we've been in this range of say from 9750 to at least around 9950. We're trying to claw back to 10,000 but not really achieving that. What's your sense at least for the near term for our markets? Is this consolidatory phase going to continue? Is there a further breakout we can see? Where are we? I
think consolidation would continue with the negative bias because I think news flow may not exactly be conducive for the market to break out of the 10,000 range, at least in the short term. The only thing that you can probably expect is one more interest rate cut. I think that is what probably most market participants are expecting, but that also is, I think, somewhat factored in. So therefore, I don't see any reason why the market should break out about 10,000 in a great hurry, as long as the North Korean problem continues to be where it is.
Mr. Bhat, so what does one do? Just sit and watch the fun games and wait?
Well, I think one needs to be invested in those sectors and stocks where I think they are all relative plays, because even if the market were to fall, they may not fall as much. So I think that's the only game in town. Things like autos, things like private sector banks, NBFCs, and probably being out of things like telecom, maybe even IT, maybe industrials is probably something that one could be invested in. But I think this is what one can only do.
And I know, so auto sales were great for the month of August.
Yeah.
But again, there you stick with some of the laggards where there could be turnaround, or you stick with what's doing the best, with stuff like Maruti, where again valuations are not cheap. I mean, we spoke with Sanjeev Prasad of Kotak yesterday. I mean, his view essentially was that post-festive season, sales should come off sharply, and that is his view. And even for the month of August, his contention is that this is output going, channel stuffing essentially, output going from factories to retail outlets, but we don't know about actual retail sales.
Well, this is
restocking basically.
This is seasonal. I mean, it happens every festive season, so therefore it's nothing very new. But I think this is the only thing that probably is defying all the doom and gloom scenario that people are painting. I think this is one sector that is doing quite well, and so therefore one needs to be invested there. And I think it's always, especially when there is so much of uncertainty, it pays to be invested in the leaders, even though the valuation may not be on your side.
NBFCs are the theme. We actually just had Mr. Gagan Banga talk about how they are expecting that momentum for their loan book to continue growing at that 30% mark. And we have Bajaj Finance also, solid sort of demand in their QIP overnight. What's your sense, though the valuations are stretched, the interest doesn't stop?
Well, I think the NBFCs and the private banking space is a story of market share being gained at the cost of public sector banks. Public sector banks and they have no capital, they have NPA problems, they can hardly do any business. So therefore, it's a story of this market share being gained. So that is where the growth is coming really. Because if you see the credit growth, it is not anything much to write home about. It is in single digit, probably low single digits. So therefore, it is just a market share gain that you are seeing, and that is why I think NBFCs and private sector banks are able to grow, and that is why there is so much of following in the market.
So is it fair to assume that you're negative on PSU banks?
Yeah, I think there is no solution in sight. I mean, we still keep
consolidation would be a success if in case that goes through, or do you expect
for consolidation? I think there should be someone who is healthy so that one can probably consolidate. But I think merging two unhealthy banks is not going to. I mean, in addition to cultural issues, I think it will only create more problems. They have to solve the problem first.
Mr. Bhat, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Appreciate you joining in with that. We will slip into a very quick break. Up next, we are joined by Bibu Prasad Rath, President and CEO of Autel Communication. The company came out with results yesterday evening. We are back in 2.